In this lesson, we're going to take a look at graphing piecewise linear functions. And piecewise linear functions means that they're kind of broken in pieces. Okay, there's two graphs happening. It says f of x is equal to these two different equations based on certain restrictions. It says if x is less than or equal to 2, it means we use this graph. When x is bigger than 2, we use this second equation. So let's see how this plays out. Basically, you've got to graph both of these lines. So I graph x plus 1. To graph x plus 1, I start at 1. That's my b. That's where I begin. And then my m, my slope, is in front of the x, so I go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and I could continue to graph up 1 over 1 forever. Okay? Now I could go down forever too. But it says if x is less than or equal to 2, which means that all this information from 2 to the right is no good. In other words, from here this way, I need to get rid of this information because it's not using it there. It's only when x is smaller than 2. So that means I should actually continue my line to the left because that area is good. Okay? So I'm going to erase this part. Now again, what I just did here in red, okay, I actually want to erase that because it's only good when x is smaller or equal to 2. So I'm going to erase after 2 everything, and I should put a solid dot at 2 because it says smaller than or equal to 2, which means a solid dot I can actually touch right there at 2. So now I translate to my second graph, which would mean that I start at positive 7. So I start at 7, and right here. And I go ahead and take and go down 2 over 1. So from there I go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And I would continue to go down 2 over 1 forever. Well, let's go ahead and pause and look at my boundary. It says only when x is bigger than 2. That means all this area from 2 to the left, it needs to be erased. It's no good. I don't use this portion of the line right here. I only use what's bigger than 2 as the boundary state. So I go ahead and erase this red line, everything that's bigger than 2. Now, because 2 already has a solid dot right here, and I just passed through there a second time, I would put an open dot, but I can just leave it right there. Kind of it's an open dot for the red line, but it doesn't really matter. It is still touching with the green line. Okay, so this is my actual graph without the yellow line. So the red line going down and the red line going down, this is your final culminating piecewise picture. Okay, so let's try another one. This one has two different equations again. First one is x, which would start at plus 0, and then out in front of 1, which means I start at 0, my b is 0, go up from there, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Okay, and then the second one starts at, oh, sorry, let's go ahead and connect the dots here. Okay, so that's my line. Now again, thinking through this, I would stop at 2, and notice it says when x is bigger than 2, you use this green line. So right here, I want to go ahead and erase everything that's left of that yellow line because that's where it's smaller than 2, and it says only to use this green line from 2 all the way bigger than 2. So first of all, I put an open dot there because it's not equal to, it's just greater than 2. Okay? So now I look down to my second one that says anything less than 2, I want to go with this second line that starts at negative 5, and from there goes down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So if I connect my dots here, you'll see this blue line. Now, I would continue to go down 1 over 1 forever, but it says only when x is smaller than 2. That means everywhere from 2 to the right, I want to erase. I only want this area off to the left. Okay? So, I go ahead and erase everything that's off to the right as far as this blue line is concerned. And I also need an open dot because x is less than 2, not equal to. So you put an open dot right there. So, if I was to erase this little line that I drew to see where 2 was, this would be your final piecewise function. Notice it's piecewise because it's in pieces. There's two separate pieces, and it's all hinging on 2 because the boundary, the original boundary said it's all based on x being bigger than 2. It's this top equation, and when x is less than 2, use this bottom line. Okay. And that's how all your piecewise function graphs will go.